Our landmarks are not silent. They tell us about ourselves, where we came from, and how we got to where we are today. San Antonio's treasured landmarks make our city unique. These buildings echo our heritage. These venues tell our stories. As they age, their value only increases. Our landmarks are irreplaceable, and they call out for protection. But who is their protector? Fortunately for San Antonio, a small group of dedicated women banded together to preserve our cultural heritage for generations to come. In 1924, these 13 visionaries formed the San Antonio Conservation Society. The prime purpose of the Conservation Society is to preserve our historic buildings, objects, places, and customs. When the founders of the Conservation Society saw the preservation of our precious past being sacrificed in the name of progress, these creative women crafted puppets to persuade city leaders to put on the brakes. In the puppet show they took to City Hall, the goose that laid golden eggs represented San Antonio's unique and precious attributes. The mayor, or Mr. San Antonio, threatened to kill the goose and pilfer her eggs. He complained that the goose's home was old buildings that simply won't fall down and keep us from looking just like every other town. But his wife, Mrs. San Antonio, convincingly argued, spare the goose for future use. The voice of culture begs. Your reward will come, for this precious goose will lay more golden eggs. Truly, as the Society's founders predicted, historic preservation has been golden for San Antonio. Another purpose of the San Antonio Conservation Society is to preserve the natural beauty of our environment. The destructive flood of 1921 led many to call for an overflow channel through the Great Bend of the San Antonio River to protect the downtown. The determined founders of the Conservation Society took city fathers to the water to demonstrate that the beauty and potential of the San Antonio River were also worth saving. The Conservation Society's first president, Emily Edwards, years later extolled the special significance of the San Antonio River.
The river has been the soul and heart of San Antonio, and it's the principal reason that we have loved San Antonio. It was the reason it was possible to live in this arid country. It was always dependable, you know. It built the city up.
In addition to preserving our natural environment, the Conservation Society has a proud record of protecting our most historic landmarks. There are times, however, when the only way to save important structures from decay or demolition is to buy them.
One of the most threatened landmarks in San Antonio, or landmark complexes in San Antonio at that time, was San Jose Mission, which was known as the Queen of the Missions of Texas. The mission was dilapidated, the roof had caved in many years before, the granary was in ruins, and souvenir hunters were coming and picking up whatever they could find. There were still some of the original Spanish-era doors of the granary, which were in existence at the time, and they had nice little brass medallions that were great souvenirs. So the Conservation Society put down $50 and bought one of the physical wooden doors to keep it from being broken up. This was only the beginning, though.
The ladies of the Conservation Society acquired other land around the mission, which ultimately led to the creation of the San Antonio Mission's National Historical Park. In these early years, the Society's fundraising consisted of modest activities, including an Indian harvest festival. Later, what began with a small group of women serving food from river barges grew exponentially to become a very big party, which we know today as a Night in Old San Antonio, or NIOSA, a fiesta event that attracts more than 100,000 visitors. More than 16,000 volunteers put on this successful fundraiser each year.
The Conservation Society is able to raise the majority of its funds through a Night in Old San Antonio, which is the city's biggest party that happens every spring. They also benefit from donations from private individuals, membership, and those sorts of ways of earning money. Also, And those are the monies that they are able to use to preserve the city's historic heritage. They are able to purchase buildings, they're able to make grants and loans to save buildings, they're able to produce educational programming and to preserve their historic properties where visitors can go to learn about the lifestyles of our city and the culture from many years ago.
Our city's rich heritage is filled with landmarks that stand as testimony to the effectiveness of the San Antonio Conservation Society. From facade easements to outright purchase, the Society's leaders have made use of all the tools and tactics at their disposal to protect and preserve the unique characteristics of San Antonio. Our willingness to go to court to fight for our principles is well known to those who seek private profit at the public's expense. The Conservation Society also recognizes and assists those who take up the cause of historic preservation.
We offer resources through our staff to help people, to give them preservation guidance so that they make the right decisions on preserving their properties. And these all have the snowball effect in the community, and we hope ultimately will help preserve much of the built environment of our city.
One of the major ways that we support other people in their preservation efforts is to recognize them through an awards program that we have for awards in the built environment. And every other year we recognize not only people who have done specific restoration and preservation projects, but also people who are heroes, people who have really gone the extra mile, and people who need to be recognized through our awards program.
Despite valiant efforts to save them, however, many of our landmarks have been lost to the wrecking ball. Sterile parking lots often mark the spots where they once stood. Demolition of historical structures is a constant threat. Some people look at an old building or house and fail to see its true potential. Others, led by the Conservation Society, envision how restoration will enrich the final product, preserve the spirit of a neighborhood, and contribute to the unique sense of place that is San Antonio. The Society has preserved and manages the Edward Steeves Homestead and the Iturri Edmonds Historic Site as museums, open to the public as windows on San Antonio's rich past. As symbolized by the wild olive branch on our logo, the Society's founders were also concerned with preserving our public spaces and ensuring the development does not encroach on precious parkland. Among its many notable success stories, the Society has had a leading role preserving historic buildings in Hemisphere Park and creating a Brackenridge Park Conservancy. More than 2,500 men and women, members of the Society, form a volunteer network throughout the community, ever on the lookout for anything that might threaten the preservation of our unique heritage. The San Antonio Conservation Society, its members and volunteers, achieve their preservation goals by working with architects and builders, community leaders and city officials, the business community, historians, and state and national preservation organizations. Preserving our heritage is a tradition that must be passed on to the next generation.
The San Antonio Conservation Society has a very active and strong community outreach program in the realm of education. And they tap the fourth grade students from about 30 schools here for a total of about 2,500 students who come in November, and they use the historic sites that they have preserved, such as this one, the Edmonds Iturri Homestead, and the Casa Navarro, and the Steeves Homestead, the San Antonio Mission, Spanish Governor's Palace. All those are laboratories to teach these students. The Library of the Conservation Society is a rich depository of information, local history, regional history. The library is the Society's best kept secret. It's important because if we don't preserve our historic past, what are we going to do for the future?
Widely recognized as one of the most active community preservation groups in the United States, the San Antonio Conservation Society has been honored with 2 distinguished awards. The National Trust for Historic Preservation Louise DuPont Crown and Shield Award, and the Texas Historical Commission Governor's Award for Historic Preservation. Ultimately, the San Antonio Conservation Society does more than preserve our treasured past. Through its dedicated stewardship, the Society also ensures a better quality of life for us and the generations to follow.